What's up, guys? Derek, moreplatesmoredates.com. Today we're going to be talking about gene mutations, specifically the myostatin gene. So it's theorized that aside from androgen receptor sensitivity and the way bodybuilders have androgens bind to the AR and transcribe their effects, myostatin deficiency could be the main reason for insane, freaky musculature and, hyper response to muscle growth, or to training, I should say, with muscle growth in response to that stimulus. So before delving into a real world example, which is Flex Wheeler, which is actually a really interesting story, I'm going to get into the gene a bit itself. So the MSTN gene is a gene that makes instructions for producing the protein myostatin, and this protein is part of the transforming growth factor beta family, TGF beta. And basically the TGF beta family of proteins control the growth of tissues in the body, and myostatin is found nearly exclusively in skeletal muscles where it is active before and after birth. The protein controls skeletal muscle growth by restraining it, in turn regulates the body's mechanism of preventing you from gaining too much muscle. So current research that surrounds myostatin is based around its treatment for musculoskeletal degenerative diseases, and coincidentally, animals that have mutations in the encoding gene MSTN show greater muscle mass strength and in some circumstances reduced body fat as well. So there was actually a study done to see the prevalence of mutations in male bodybuilders, which is really interesting. And they wanted to see if having a mutation had any effect on their muscle size or muscle performance. So the study looked at the mutation prevalence in RS 1805086, arm circumference, pull-up max, and push-up max. And the results showed that 17% of the individuals in the bodybuilders had one mutation, which is the genotype AG, and 83% had the common outcome, which is the genotype AA, and 0% had two mutations, which would be the GG genotype. So those with the AG outcome had an average arm circumference of 46.37 centimeters compared with the AA, which had an average of 42.02 centimeters. Those with the AG outcome had an average pull-up max score of 21 compared with AA with an average of 12. Those with the AG outcome had an average push-up max of 61 compared with the AA individuals with an average of 40. So the study clearly shows that those with a mutation are rare. However, the mutation does appear to give the subject a performance and size advantage over those with the common outcome. This is really interesting because this mutation in this SNP is this is a rare mutation to begin with, just having the AG genotype. But it's theorized that some of the bodybuilders, IFBB pros and Olympia caliber competitors that you see that just have stupid amounts of muscle growth and just a hyper response to training are perhaps ones that have this nearly impossible to find GG genotype at this SNP. So no one in this entire bodybuilder population used in the study had the GG genotype. You can already see what a significant difference just having one of those variants in the genotype has on muscle strength and muscle size. It's, not insignificant whatsoever. It's actually very significant. So you can just imagine what having GG would actually do for somebody. So I actually wanted to assess, I wanted to go into my raw genome data myself to see where I was at. And obviously I was expecting to have the common AA genotype. And, companies follow their own protocols, which are all different, but 23andMe reports genotype data based on the plus strand of GRCH37. So when you're trying to figure out what your SNP is, you kind of have to flip the alleles to match from A to T, T to A, C to G, and G to C in some circumstances. So if you have 23andMe raw data and you want to go see what your genotype is, you go to the RS 1805086 SNP and it'll show your genotype is C or T. So mine is TT. So once you flip that to match the alleles in, how this is supposed to be represented, you see I'm T, so therefore I'm AA. And if you had CC genotype, you would be like the freakazoid bodybuilders with the C would be a GG allele combination. In this study, the rare group that has like the one polymorphism, they would be AG. So as expected, I'm AA. So Probably not somebody who's going to be at the Olympia anytime soon, obviously, but that's expected. Interestingly enough, though, there's a lot of data too to support that this myostatin gene does in fact regulates, well, I don't even think I have to get into why it would regulate it, but if you have something that's literally preventing you from creating myostatin, which is your regulatory mechanism for deciding how much muscle you can grow, if you're have a genetic defect that basically prevents you from having this, you can just theorize how much of an effect this is going to have on actual muscle tissue growth. Obviously, it's like saying, oh, if you have I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example, perhaps like a pituitary tumor or something, and you oversecrete growth hormone, and then what's the result of that? You have stupid amounts of growth hormone, and then you get acromegaly. Like, this is sort of like that, except with muscle tissue itself, because you have something that's creating a defect in your ability to produce myostatin, which is your body's only main mechanism for preventing you from gaining just absurd amounts of muscle tissue. So getting into a real life example that I thought you guys would find really interesting, during 1998, Bulko Laboratories conducted a study that analyzed 62 men who previously made incredible gains of muscle mass from lifting weights. Of these 62 men, 9 were diagnosed with having a myostatin mutation. So as mentioned, myostatin is a protein that suppresses myogenesis, and in English, this means myostatin basically prevents the body from building muscle. So Flex Wheeler was in this group, supposedly, and he was one of the 9 bodybuilders who was deficient in this gene. And in fact, out of the 9 men who had this myostatin deficiency, Flex had the rarest kind, the exon 2 gene. So here's the thing. That was a quote that I just took from an excerpt given by, I believe it was Victor Conti. So he's the guy who was president of, he basically founded Bulko Laboratories. And if you haven't seen documentaries and interviews with Victor Conti, they're definitely worth watching. They're super interesting. He's basically like a mad scientist in terms of performance enhancement and the high up there Olympic kind of doping back in the 90s, or he got busted eventually. But anyways, he was the one that, actually it looks like it functioned from 1988 until 2002. So obviously quite a big span of time there. But the interesting thing is about this excerpt that was supposedly quoted from Victor, he basically elaborates on a myostatin mutation, but then he also talks about a complete deficiency of the gene. So the way he elaborates, it's not clear if Flex Wheeler had the GG genotype for MSTN RS, the SNP RS1805086, or if he was missing the gene entirely. But basically what Victor stated is 9 were diagnosed with having a myostatin mutation. So this would imply that the gene is in fact there if he has a mutation. And then they go on to apply that he is missing the gene entirely. So it's not really clear. He's kind of contradicting himself there, unless I'm totally misinterpreting what he said or somebody misquoted him. But either way, if Flex had the GG polymorphism or if he was missing the gene entirely, nevertheless, he's obviously a special, unique, like super, super, super rare case. And apparently the end result was basically him having way more muscle fibers than the average man, because his body simply isn't able to regulate growth like a normal person. So the end result of having a this deficiency or defect is actually his body just makes him build muscle way more than the average person. And I found this super interesting, and it kind of delves deeper into when if you should pursue bodybuilding as a professional career choice. Because if you don't have this like androgen receptor sensitivity or this like myostatin deficiency, the likelihood that you're going to become like a freak show bodybuilder who can hang with 300-pound mass monsters on stage who are also all probably genetic anomalies with myostatin deficiencies is very low. So, if you've got your genome checked out before, if you have raw data you can refer to, I encourage you to go look, just, as a interesting little thing to see if you just so happen to be one of the gifted individuals that has a polymorphism and you have one G allele, or, I'm wondering if you have both, then perhaps you might, bodybuilding might be something you want to pursue. But anyways, interesting thing that I wanted to delve into deeper. So that's why I kind of looked up the gene, the SNP itself, cross-referenced it for myself, and looked a bit deeper at some sort of clinical applications and trials where they evaluated this gene in a setting, a controlled setting, and, checked if it actually had a significant effect on muscle growth and muscle size, muscle strength, all those kind of outcomes. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment. Really helps the algorithm when you guys do that. Really appreciate it when you do as well. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date when I post videos. It'll let you know when I post, because I'm pretty sure I don't show up in the subscription box all the time unless you press that bell. Check me out on Instagram at moreplates_more_dates, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter. Check out the links in the video description below if you want to support products I've either formulated or things I support and am affiliated with. And check out the podcast link too if you guys can drop a 5-star rating there, or if you happen to be listening to this on the podcast already. Those are appreciated too, and it helps spread the message. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.